So what do you want to get out of this weekend?
Well, I think the opportunity to practice more often is something that I think all schools and programs like to take advantage of. I think going to postseason and just all coaches have a different reason for deciding to go down this road. For us, it's because of how young our team is, and the hope is that you have a long view to this, and the following year, your players have already gone through a postseason play, assuming you're going to be invited to the NCAA tournament next year. I think we're pretty fortunate that we have a tournament to play in. For many, many years, there was never in a sense, an NIT, tournament outside the NCAA tournament. So for volleyball, we want to support the event, and I think in a situation like ours where we have a young squad and trying to give them every opportunity to get ready for the following year, it's a good opportunity for us to do that.
What was the team's reaction to being in this tournament? Did they want to be in this tournament?
That's a good question. We've been preparing the team all season long to, regardless of, we didn't know halfway through the season if we were going to be able to make the NCAA tournament. And so we just kept telling them that we're planning on going to a postseason tournament. They didn't know really anything about the NIVC. As coaches, we knew that was a possibility for us. And so we just kept extending that date and telling them that, here are the dates, you guys, in terms of going home. So I think they were disappointed that we weren't invited. I think the writing was on the wall a couple weeks ago, so I was surprised that we weren't invited. When we were talking about the NIVC, then I think for the players who play and play a lot, I think that's fine. I think for the players who, I think a lot of us are just mentally and emotionally tired. And so you'd have to ask them to really gauge their response on how they feel about playing.
Especially your older players, your seniors, coming back for more matches. Do you think they see that as an advantage to get to extend their career a little bit?
I think that for Merla and Zyonna and Melina, for me, those players have always been all in. Whatever decisions that we make for the program, all three of those players have always been super supportive and never question. And the opportunity to play and continue to play, I think, is runs right along what they would normally want to do. And so we're fortunate to have seniors like that. And I think, the seniors often dictate what the attitude is going to be by the rest of the team. And so it's nice to have that type of leadership, and they're excited to be here, excited to play at home. I mean, that's the other advantage, is that we get a chance to host and not have to travel. I think that played a big part in how we played against ASU. Had the roles reversed, and we had to come home from Oregon and then go up and play ASU at ASU. Who knows what kind of team we would have, how we would have played.
Yeah, you see a lot of these older teams like USC not wanting to play on. So do you think that's a big difference between team makeup?
I think so. We had the opportunity to play in 2019, but we were so beat up, so many concussions and the kids. So it just didn't make sense. We were an older team at that particular time. We were bringing in so many freshmen in 2020. It really, Kamiley was the only one that was returning, Zyonna certainly, and Melina. But it was the positions that really, in my mind, would have benefited from playing in that tournament. We just didn't have enough bodies, So I think for every school, it's a little bit different. I think if you're young, a lot of the teams that I know that are participating are teams that have never gone to postseason play, or they're teams that are really young that have traditionally gone to postseason play, but this year, for whatever reason, they have a young squad and they want to give them and expose them to postseason play in hopes of being invited to the NCAA tournament next season.
And Rio Grande Valley.
Certainly the one team that we are very familiar with is Mexico State, and so they had a terrific season. Unfortunately, were lost in the first round of their conference tournament, but there's certainly a tradition of success there that's, existed since Mike's been there. And then UNLV, who is an NCAA tournament team last year, they won the conference last year, and that entire squad comes back. They're going to be a handful for New Mexico State and beyond if they end up winning that first round. Rio Grande, I don't have a lot of information about them. The only thing I know is what's on their roster, and they're a very international roster, and they have very good players. And they play in the same conference as New Mexico State, except on the other side, right? They're divided, the WAC, into two divisions. And so, but anytime you're dealing with international players like we have, they come with a lot more experience traditionally than the U.S. players. And so I think their roster is full of, kids from the Czech Republic and from Brazil and, from Mexico, from Turkey. So you're not quite sure what you're going to get with them. You just know that they're going to be a pretty good team, and they're athletically and certainly physically good enough to certainly give us a run.
When was the last time you guys hosted a playoff game?
A postseason game? I think it was 2015, or no, the 2014, and that was when we were the 12th seed in the tournament, so we were 12. BYU was unseeded, and so we played Yale the first round, and then we played BYU, who happened to be unseeded, and then BYU went all the way to the finals of the NCAA championship. So obviously the NCAA didn't get that particular seed. That was one of the best teams I've ever coached. That was a Final Four level team for us, and had we, it was a very close game against BYU here, but it was one of the most disappointing losses for me. Simply because we knew that we were really good, and we happened to run against a team that was destined to play in the finals of the national championship, and that was an unseeded team. And that team actually should have gone to UCLA because UCLA was a lower seed than we were, and for whatever reason they ended up sending BYU to us. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way. Yeah.
2018 was the last time you guys have been in a postseason game, and I think Melina and Zyonna are the only players that have been in that playoff setting. So are you kind of, are you leaning on them, I guess, to kind of, lead the younger team?
Yeah, I think that the seniors in general, even Merla, the way that they conduct themselves every single day and how mature they are and how they come to work every single day, rain or shine, their attitude throughout practices, it really sets a good example for the younger players. And, it doesn't give the younger players any latitude to back off and to make excuses and not want to be here, And so that leadership has really been throughout the season, and then certainly in postseason play as well.
Is there, like a stigma or like a stereotype around the NIVC? I know you guys said you didn't talk specifically about playing in the NIVC, but because it's not the NCAA tournament, is there a stereotype around this tournament? You guys were hesitant at all to play in it?
So repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
Is there like a weird stereotype around the NIVC, compared to the NCAA tournament? Were you guys hesitant at all?
Yeah, I think it's obviously not the NCAA tournament, and I think that there's not the tradition in basketball. The NIT has existed forever, right? When I first got hired here in 1992, there was also a postseason secondary tournament, and I think that lasted for 6 to 8 years, and then it went away. And then the Triple Crown came in and said, look, we're willing to come in and even make it a 64-team bracket. I mean, we're fortunate that an organization like the Triple Crown was willing to take on this huge endeavor. And so I think for all of us, we recognize that it's not the NCAA tournament and all the bells and whistles that go with the NCAA tournament, but also we need to be thankful that we have a postseason tournament, a secondary tournament that's willing to go to the lengths that the Triple Crown has gone to in order to be able to host it. This is not easy. I mean, he's calling people, the Charrett, who runs the person who's organizing the tournament, he's calling schools to try to encourage them to participate, and so I think it's really critical in order for this event to continue on, which it needs to for volleyball, then we need to support it. And for this particular year, obviously you start out the season with the goal of making the NCAA tournament. everyone's disappointed when you don't make the NCAA tournament. But I think it's really important that you have the conversation with your administration to be able to support this event and support your team. It's good for your team and good for the student athletes. That's at the end of the day, I think that's the reasons why you go.
Like one program was trying to raise money to go and
Right.
weren't able to do it. I mean, what is that like in volleyball to have to walk that
Right.
financial?
Yeah, I think that volleyball's still not at the level where, you know, they're funded in a way that allows you to, you know, they just automatically can go. I mean, the Wichita State coach is a really good friend of mine, Chris Lamb, and he would love his team should go, you know, because they're really young and talented, and, you know, they didn't make it out. They came in third in the conference, and this would be a good stepping stone for his team. But his administration had chose not to, you know, say we're not going to any postseason unless it's an NCAA tournament. You know, everyone battles, fights their own battle in terms of the financial part of it, you know, and, you know, had we not hosted, you know, I'm not sure if we would have been able to go, you know. So there's certainly some costs that go along with this event. But again, you know, the conversation throughout the last 5 years has all been about the student athlete welfare. And if we're going to talk about that and really abide by what they say, then we should be going to these and going to postseason play if you're invited.
All right, any more questions for Dave? All right, we'll
Thank
get
you
started
guys.
in here.
Appreciate it.
See you on Friday.
Thanks, Dave.
So, Z, for you seniors, what does postseason play mean? I mean, I know for the younger players it's preparing for the future, but for you, what does it mean?
For me, it's just going out with a bang pretty much. I have these last 2 weeks to just put it out there, put everything I've learned and everything that I've worked for on the court, and just go out with a bang.
Was there any, you know, what's the overall mood, I guess, of being in this game? It's obviously not the NCAA tournament, but were you guys, you know, just as amped up, I guess, to play in this game?
Yeah, we're just as excited. This still gives us an opportunity to win and show how much improvement as a team that we've made. And so even though it's not the NCAAs, it's still just as important.
So, I mean, for you, I think it's just you and Melina who have ever played in a playoff game for, you know, on this current team. So, I mean, do you kind of, you know, naturally have to take on the role of kind of teaching the younger players what it's like to be in a postseason game?
No, with the younger players, it's like baby steps, just letting them know that this is going to be beneficial for them in the future, as far as, like you guys said, the improving of the team. So I don't put a lot of pressure on them when it comes to like playing in a postseason tournament. I just want them to go out there, have fun, and just work on improving.
What do you remember about that kind of one and done environment of the NCAAs?
We didn't have the outcome that we wanted. NCAAs is a serious, it's a hard tournament. But at the end of the day, we still went out there, and even though we didn't win, we took that as a learning lesson to get better for the next year.
And you had to travel to Nebraska that year, right?
Yeah, it was cold. It was cold.
Playing at home, what does that mean?
Back in Seattle?
No.
Oh, here. I love playing at home because the energy that our fans bring is it's so nice. And I feel like as a team, we're way more comfortable playing on our home court than somewhere else. So,
what are you expecting this weekend? I know you guys, if you ended up playing New Mexico State, that would be the third time this year. But what are you looking at that first?
Yeah, I've never actually seen Texas Rio Grande or UNLV. I think I've seen UNLV play, but overall, I know these teams are coming in to win, and we can't walk in big-headed. We have to realize that they're going to fight hard to win, and we need to be ready and be prepared to fight back.
So Dave said you didn't know too much about Rio Grande Valley as well. So I guess how do you kind of prepare for a team that you don't really know too much about?
Just like any other team, you watch film and just see how they play, and then you practice and prepare for what they're going to do. So it's just like any other Pac-12 team. We do the same thing.
Do you tailor your game more towards who you're playing, or do you kind of just focus on your game and hopefully that kind of is, I guess, which one do you kind of focus on more? I usually focus on my game with the addition of knowing what they're going to do. So I know how to play my game based on what they're giving me. So.
Any Anything else for Zyonna? All right,
Thank you guys.